Good morning, 7th grade. Good morning, Life Science. Today we pick up on video lecture episode number 4. Today we're going to pick up on slide 50. So in slide 50 we see some methods, or at least one method used to measure population that's called trap, mark, and release. Say, for example, you wanted to count wild rabbits who live underground and come out to eat at dawn and dusk. Well, what ecologists do is they set traps to capture, mark, and then release those creatures, those particular animals, in this case, wild rabbits. Later, the ecologists can come back and capture again and compare marked and unmarked rabbits and then estimate the population size. Now, you see an image in the image there on slide 50, just an example of what we were just briefly talking about there. Now, let's go to slide 51, population size and particular sample counts. What if you wanted to count rabbits over a large area? Well, to estimate the size of a large populations, ecologists count a sample. For example, to estimate the number of rabbits in an area of 100 acres, you could count 1 acre and then multiply that by 100. All right, so let's move into limiting factors now in regards to population size. Limiting factors by definition are anything that restricts the number of organisms in a population. One grass plant can produce hundreds of seeds. Imagine those seeds on a vacant field sprouting new grass plants. Soon the field is covered with grass. Can it keep growing forever? And the obvious answer is no. Space is going to continue to be limited as more grow. Now add trees and flowers who compete for space, sunlight, water, and soil, and you can kind of begin to see how limiting factors are coming into play just by adding a few more species to this area. Usually food, water, nesting sites, living space, mates, and other resources are limited. A limiting factor can affect more than one population in a community. For example, fewer plants means fewer seeds, which means fewer seed-eating mice, which as a result means fewer mice eating owls or hawks. Let's move into slide 53. Let's talk about carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is defined as the largest number of individuals of one species that an ecosystem can support over time. And this results from, think for example, limited nesting space for robins, type of bird, could limit the population from getting larger, and as a result they could be forced to move elsewhere and start a new population. Slide 54 just illustrates the idea of carrying capacity and excess population and what happens with excess population that helps to balance the population in a particular ecosystem. Moving on to slide 55, there's going to be 3 questions I want you to consider as we talk about biotic potential over the next couple slides. 1. What would happen if growth were not restricted? 2. What if there was an unlimited supply of food, water, and space in a favorable climate? And 3. What if populations were not limited by disease, predators, or competition? Alright, so let's go ahead and define biotic potential on slide 56. Biotic potential is the highest rate of reproduction under ideal circumstances. An illustration I'll use, which also has images on that same slide of slide 56, is assume that an avocado tree and a tangerine tree had the same number of fruit. Each avocado fruit only contains 1 seed, whereas the tangerine contains many. As a result, the tangerine tree has a higher biotic potential just due to the amount of seeds in comparison to the avocado. Now let's talk about birth rates versus death rates in regards to change in population. On slide 57, you're going to note that it says that birth rates and death rates also influence the size of a population. If in 1 year 900 squirrels living in New York City's Central Park were born and 800 die, then the population increased by 100. Now, on the converse, if 400 squirrels are born and 500 die, then the population is decreased by 100. Slide 58, I have a picture of what those squirrels do look like, and then on slides 59 through 61, I just have some pictures both of Central Park, like places in Central Park, like little locations in there, and a larger view of that as well. So let's now move into rapid versus slow-growing populations. This is also in connection with changing population, and this is on slide 62. So on the left-hand side of slide 62, I have an image showing rapid growing countries, and on the right, slow growing countries. The rapid growing countries that I've included for examples are Jordan, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. In Jordan, the population is increasing by 3.3%. In Uganda, it's 5.2%, as well as Zimbabwe. Now in the slow growing countries, which is on the right hand side of the slide, you'll notice that Germany actually has a negative increase. That is, it's almost, you would say, more of a decrease of 1.5%. Sweden has a 0.1% increase, and then the United States has a 0.6% increase. So you can see how countries do vary, but here's the thing to consider. Look at the sentence above those 2 images. It says, in countries with faster population growth, birth rates are much higher, which makes sense. All right, moving on to our last 2 slides for the day, slides 63 and 64. So on slide 63, we're talking about one other thing in connection with changes in population, and that is moving around. Most animals can move from place to place, and this of course affects the population size. Let me talk about some examples here, just 4 examples below that. A male sheep may wander many miles in search of a mate. As a result, their offspring may establish a completely new population and also change the population they move from. Birds may move from one place to another during migrations, so their populations can change seasonally based on when they migrate and where they're migrating to, whether they're leaving one area or going to another area, and then those population sizes changing. Even plants and microscopic organisms can move from one place to another, and they're usually carried by wind, water, or other organisms like animal fur, people clothing, etc. So even though plants can't crawl, so to speak, or move, what they do is their seeds and parts from them that continue the reproduction process are able to be carried along by other means. And then our last example is the Florida mangrove trees. They can be an opportunity for water to move seeds since they live on the coast. So let's take a look at slide 64 and finish up for today. This is just what some mangrove trees look like, where they live. They live near the coast, and the water that their roots are in is actually saline water because this is from the seawater. It's more like a transitional ecosystem, so to speak here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope today's slide video lecture has been helpful. Like I said, leave comments below if you have questions. Reach out to me, send me an email, and I look forward to seeing you guys today in group sessions. Goodbye.